This is the show that explores the fascinating secret life of the world around us. Revealing surprising facts guaranteed to make you say, I didn't know that. Meet Richard Ambrose and Johnny Phillips. Two industrial scientists who don't mind getting their hands dirty when it comes to establishing the facts. Join them on their mission to explore the extraordinary behind the ordinary. In this edition, On the Road, behind the scenes of the amazing UK network. Richard and Johnny reveal how highway Big Brother technology can recognise a number plate in a fraction of a second.
It's seen that.
Plus, keeping your noggin safe. What motorcycle helmets have to endure before they can be used on a real head. And Johnny shows off his feminine side by slicing open a lady's hairdryer. Plus, fact or fiction, is custard really explosive? Every year, we drive a staggering 500,000 million kilometres in the UK. But lost time due to congestion costs British business some £20 billion per year. About the size of Johnny's salary.
And that's why places like this are absolutely crucial.
This is the Traffic Management Centre in South Wales.
Keeping a close eye on the roads 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and dedicated to keeping traffic on the move.
And it's so futuristic, it's even been featured in a sci-fi drama.
Nick, have we got an incident? Have we got a live one?
Just on monitor 19, lane 3, we've got a couple of vehicles involved, looks like a tail-end shunt. What's happening now is Becky's phoning the police to let them know, and the other operators have set signs to say there's a lane 3 closure, and they've either put 40s up or 50s up to say slow the traffic down.
So that's being done right now?
Right now.
These huge signs aren't just programmed from this centre. They can also be automatically set by the Midas system, but more of that later.
And if, say, there's a dispute on the insurance on that accident, would you use that?
We don't get involved in claims, etc., but under the Freedom of Information Act, people can write in, and it can be released that way. We keep it for 14 days.
That's useful to know.
It's clearing. The cars are moving now.
We had about 2.5 miles of queued traffic, so it'll take about 25 minutes to clear back to normal levels of performance.
Without this system, that 2.5 mile tailback would probably have taken hours rather than minutes to clear. The Welsh network has around 400 CCTV cameras, but they won't nick you because they're all used for traffic management.
So, Nick, with all those cameras, you must see some pretty crazy things.
Crazy and stupid as well. We've had the lorry load of ping-pong balls that just spread across the motorway.
What about animals?
Dogs, sheep, bullocks, pot-bellied pig in a cage. Sorry, there's got a radio call in there. Incident on.
Another one.
Live incident.
And the alert probably came from the Midas system. It's on major roads across Britain, it monitors exactly what the traffic's doing, and Johnny knows how it works.
There are typically 3 loops of copper wire buried about 4 inches below the road surface. A small electric current through the wire causes inductance, which is a bit like a small magnetic field.
When a car passes over the loops, the inductance changes and the detector registers the car.
The loops are generally laid in pairs. The system measures how long it takes a vehicle to go from one loop to the other, and from this information, it can work out the vehicle's speed.
You won't have to look far for a loop on a major road. The lines of bitumen are a telltale sign that one lies below. And if there's a problem on a British motorway, the loop system warns drivers to take the pedal off the metal by automatically activating one of 3,000 dot matrix signs.
And they're pretty humongous. This is just a small one, but it still weighs nearly a tonne and costs £50,000.
It's called a dot matrix sign because the image is generated using a matrix of dots. In this case, tiny lights. 49,152 tiny lights, to be precise.
And each letter has to be 400 millimetres high because that's the optimum size for a driver travelling at 110 kilometres per hour.
Right, time to go. I bet the roads are going to be a nightmare.
Here's the latest travel news.
Traffic info for the public is vital here.
The approach to the other Simon roundabout.
It's aber kein man.
So there are texts, news and a Traffic Wales website, including CCTV snapshots, which some people use to check the weather.
But still great news for the motorways, free-flowing traffic on the eastbound and westbound of the M4.
Ah, nice one, mate.
So, Johnny, have a nice journey, you slacker.
Later, the boys check out a system that can record number plates in milliseconds.
This time on Testing, motorbike helmets.
This is a specialist testing laboratory in Hooverlaken, Holland. First up, the weather test. This helmet has to endure 6 hours of driving rain and 6 hours in 50-degree heat. 12 hours of punishment later, it's a pass. To test the outer shell's resistance to sharp objects, a 3-kilogram weight is dropped onto the helmet from a height of 3 metres. There's no room for manoeuvre. Even momentary contact with the head form means a fail.
When this sharp point hits the head, you hear a beep. Only the smallest touch will already give a beep.
The helmet's dented, but the buzzer doesn't sound. It's a pass. It must also be tested for penetration of the visor. Imagine if you were happily riding along and a load of sand blew in your face. Well, the visor has to be scratch resistant too. A section of the visor is taken out. 3 kilos of sand should do the trick. And after it's cleaned, the visibility still has to be 75%.
The inner shell is made of polystyrene with 3 kinds of densities. The reason is because of the fact that the human skull is on the top, it's quite thin. And on the front side, it's quite hard, actually. So you can have a different impact on the front side of the helmet or on top of the helmet.
The inner shell acts like a cushion to absorb impact energy. Polystyrene beads are compressed one by one, extending the time of impact and providing a stopping distance for the person inside, much like body panels being crushed in a car accident. And how to test it? You drop it head first. Sensors in the 5-kilo head form measure its acceleration when it strikes. The inner shell is there to slow the impact, so the lower the acceleration, the better the shock absorption of the helmet. And the test doesn't even damage the surface.
This is a salon hood dryer. They were designed to give people frizz-free, shiny hair. I've been testing it on Johnny to give him a new hairstyle.
How am I looking, mate?
Man, you are looking a gem. These mains-powered hood dryers became popular when beehive hairdos came into fashion. They were the easiest way to dry vertically stacked hair. Hairdressers used chemical setting lotion and drying time could be up to 40 minutes.
You're a beast.
Interesting. A thermostat ensured the hoods didn't overheat and fry the scalp.
This is popping right out, isn't it?
Under the plastic shell of the hood, there's an electric fan that draws air across a heating coil to warm it up. The warm air passes down through this clever piece of plastic, which distributes it around the head, giving you the perfect hairdo.
Very simple. Why didn't I think of that? I wasn't born.
Yeah, you'd have been a few decades too late, Rich. More grinder action coming soon.
Still to come, check your larder. Is everyday custard really explosive? Plus, Richard and Johnny see how this amazing equipment can recognise a number plate in a fraction of a second.
It's seen that.
There are more than 1 million illegal vehicles in Britain, but now police are tackling the problem with a new high-tech crime-fighting weapon.
And it works by spying on your number plate, and it's called Automatic Number Plate Recognition, or ANPR.
The automatic number plate recognition system has 2 key elements: computer software and a camera.
All UK licence plates are what we call retro-reflective, so if we shine a light on them, they reflect back. So what we have is an infrared illuminator, which is very, very powerful, which emits a beam of infrared light. It hits the licence plate, and what we do, using this camera here, we capture an image of the light reflected back. And we have what we call our overview camera, and what that will do, it'll give us a nice, crisp, clear image of the vehicle and ideally the driver in it.
So there's no chance of you saying, wasn't me, Gov, I lent my car to a friend or anything like that?
Well, I'll wear a tash next time.
But for all the cameras and infrared light beams, the heart of the system is this smart software. Here's how it works.
The camera will present the software with a series of images, and we analyse individual frames of video, and we're looking for the presence of a licence plate. It's looking for differentials in colour and contrast. And in this particular case, you can see there's lots of black and white, black and white, black and white. So the software will automatically trigger and go, that's a licence plate.
The data is then analysed by a powerful computer which is designed to identify each specific character. It predicts the full number plate with a high degree of accuracy.
Because our software works so fast, we will typically take 50 images of the same licence plate, and we'll do this process 50 times over until it comes with a really, really confident, strong reading and present it with a result.
But is it really that quick? Let's find out.
So how fast is this technology?
We just need to see that licence plate for around 5 milliseconds, and then we'll get a recognition result.
5 milliseconds. That's 5/1000th of a second.
That's right. It's
That's
very fast.
Extraordinary. Prove it.
OK, Johnny, flip it.
It's got no chance.
It's seen that?
Yeah.
That is incredible. That is truly incredible.
Custard. It conjures up images of works canteens, hospitals, school dinners and kids' parties. It's definitely one of those foods that you either love or hate. But it's pretty harmless nonetheless. Or is it? Could custard have a more explosive side? Is custard a bomb waiting to go off? You didn't really think that was going to blow up, did you? Fear not. There's absolutely no need to defuse that trifle in your fridge. But what if we apply a bit of science? What if we use custard powder instead? Right, let's get rid of this first. OK, now I've got this tin into which I shall place this candle. Then I get some custard powder and I'm going to sprinkle it around the candle, like that. Make sure there's plenty in there. OK. Then I get this rubber hose and poke it into this hole, which I made earlier. OK, now I'm going to light the candle. Put the lid on and retire to a safe distance. Now, please, do not try this at home. Now, all I've got to do is blow. So what just happened? When I blew into the tin, I introduced oxygen, one of the essential ingredients for fire, and at the same time, I turned the pile of custard powder into an airborne dust cloud, which created the explosion. But here's the thing, there isn't anything explosive in custard powder. Just the act of turning it into a dust cloud and igniting it in a confined space made it explosive. Custard powder was invented in 1837 by pharmacist Alfred Bird. His wife was allergic to traditional egg custard, so he came up with a cornflour-based substitute. But it wasn't until his friends sampled it that he realised its commercial potential, and the now famous Bird's custard was born. And in 1902, this place, the custard factory in Digbeth, Birmingham, was established to produce it. Even back then, they knew about the potential danger of custard powder. So instead of the usual open plan layout, the factory consisted of a series of rooms separated by thick walls and corridors sectioned off by these huge steel blast doors so that any explosion would be contained. So next time you see that long-forgotten tin of custard powder at the back of the kitchen cupboard, just remember what it's capable of. But don't try this with your custard powder at home.
Hey, what's this? It's a banging tune! It's rubbish! Hey! I said it's rubbish! Hey! And you need some new loudspeakers. Hey! Or some new ears.
This is one of the largest purpose-built factories in China, with 1.5 million square feet of working area and 3,000 staff. Each floor in every building is bigger than an American football pitch, and inside they make award-winning hi-fi speakers. Speakers work by turning electrical signals into sound using these cone-shaped drivers. This one has a bass driver and a tweeter. The frames for the drivers are made first. These are cast out of liquid aluminium. This makes the frames much more rigid than plastic ones, and when the two drivers are mounted onto them, a much better acoustic sound will be produced from inside the speaker box. The aluminium frame for the bass driver is bonded onto a magnet assembly before a voice coil is attached. Each driver has its own voice coil. This is a piece of copper wire wound onto a rigid cylinder and is essentially the driving force behind the speaker. When an electrical signal is sent through it, it reacts with the magnet and creates a magnetic field, causing the cone to vibrate and reproducing the sounds from your CDs or MP3s. The tweeter is a smaller driver and so has a smaller voice coil, but works in the same way. The two drivers produce totally different sounds. The 5-inch bass produces low to mid-range sounds, while the small tweeter will produce the higher frequency sounds. At maximum volume, a pair of these speakers produce 86 decibels of noise. By comparison, concert speakers kick out 130 decibels, as loud as a Boeing 747 taking off. The speaker housing is made out of MDF, or medium-density fiberboard. It's imported all the way from Australia and has special sound-dampening properties. The sides of the box are curved so it can effectively absorb vibrations from the drivers inside and produce the best possible sound. Finally, when all of the components are loaded into the cabinets, the connections are soldered together and the front cover is stuck on. The speakers are finished. Britain's road network has never been busier. There are now around 33 million licensed vehicles on our tarmac.
So safety measures have never been more important, whether they come like this
Or like this. Cat's eyes.
Cat's eyes are an important nighttime road safety measure. They reflect car lights, showing the centre of the roads and important junctions. The cat's eye design is a British invention, patented in 1934 and still widely used today, and here's one in bits.
A cast iron base, a rubber insert, and 2 pairs of glass cat's eyes reflecting in opposite directions. The optical characteristics of the glass cat's eye component are such that light shining into it is reflected back in the opposite direction. So the light from a car's headlights reflects directly back and can be seen by the driver. And it's designed so that when a car drives over it, the glass eyes are pushed down past what amounts to an artificial eyelid, which wipes them clean.
But even cat's eyes are moving with the times.
Right, Spence, we found this on the back of your lorry. What is it?
It's a solar-powered cat's eye. You've got 2 solar panels either side of the cat's eye there. It charges the battery up during the day by the sunlight, and at night it knows it's dark, turns itself on.
So obviously somebody thought that the cat's eye needed redesigning. Is it really any better?
This is a brilliant idea. It's a lot better than the normal ones they put in.
So it gives out light rather than just reflecting it?
Yeah, so even if you had your headlights off, you'd see them.
Right. White lines.
I'm up for it.
Here we go.
White lines have been around for even longer than cat's eyes. The Ministry of Transport approved them for dangerous bends way back in 1925.
I love it. I love the fact that I'm having a break, then I'll do the offside. Fantastic.
In the early days, it was a pot of white paint. Now a machine like this can pump out 30 kilometres of line a day. This is a thermoplastic mix at 200 degrees, which fuses with the road's surface. Nice job, boys. But what is the white line recipe?
The first component is sand. The second one is a resin, something to bind it all together. This can be either a natural resin from trees or a petrochemical resin, something very similar to the raw material that goes into chewing gum. The third component is the pigment, and it's a titanium compound. It can also be found in white paint and white paper, and it's rather expensive. But when it comes to white, there's nothing like it. The fourth ingredient are glass beads. These are added to the main mix, but they're also sprinkled onto the surface of the line to give it a reflective finish. So just like the cat's eye, the lights from a car are reflected directly back to the driver.
So, talking over, it's time for a tarmac challenge. Richard v Johnny. Can they paint white lines like the experts?
OK.
Blimey,
that is heavy. I tell you, I'm not joking.
Oh, not bad. Not bad.
Give it some glass bead sprinkles. Go on, Johnny. Man, this is hard work.
Not bad, Richard. But can Johnny do any better?
Johnny, that is actually quite straight.
It's going very well, actually, I think.
Look at the state of that. How long would this normally take then, Chris, to do a triangle?
Oh, dear me.
Less than 30 seconds.
Less than 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Guys, what do you reckon?
Rubbish.
It's going to be like a speed hump by the time I'm finished.
And the results out of 10? Johnny 5, Richard 7.
So 7 out of 10, 5 out of 10?
Like that.
I've got the job.
You've got the job and you're fired.
I'm hired and you're fired.
Join Richard and Johnny next time for more fascinating facts and revelations.
How do I look? Absolutely beautiful.
I love a lovely lumpy custard.
Cat's eyes.
Keep pulling, keep pulling, keep pulling, and cut there.